With a bit of luck, we should be.
We are now live.
Are we live? Are we? Really?
Live. Yes.
Hold on, let me just check. It should be on my YouTube as well. Yes, there's a tick. I'm too excited for words.
Okay.
So, morning, angels. Good morning, angels. And good morning.
Good morning to you. Yeah.
God, it's so good to be with you. It's so good. So, good morning, everyone that's watching too. I hope you're all having a lovely week. Well, as lovely as you can all make it, you know, and doing, you know, the things that we've never had time to do before. We've managed to get that time right now to make it special. So, can't believe it's Friday already, can you?
It's amazing. It's, yeah. Sometimes the days seem so long, but then they just go so, the weeks just fly.
It's as quick as an eye, isn't it? It's quick as a blink of an eye. So it's Friday. So this week I'm trying to get used to this new system. So the reason why I'm stumbling a bit is because we're now using StreamYard, which is the new system. So I feel like I'm in a TV studio. So I've got like red lights going on me. Stop. But yeah, so I'm really excited. So I've got streaming down the bottom. We've got all of our email addresses. Let me just turn this off. I've got the talk.
We're just having good news, right?
We've got lovely. Yeah, this is so wonderful for us. So if someone else joins, I've got room for another person live as well. So hopefully we'll get someone else joining as well. But that's fine because we've got a lovely, beautiful therapist today. So today's therapy talks, we're going to be talking about vulnerability, and we're all traveling through this madness that's going on at the moment, and people deal with things in different ways. And for me, I mean, I'm a very one of these people that's kind of an open book. But I never used to be like that. But I found that vulnerability for me, it allows me to experience the beauty in full of life, and it means that I feel alive. Because I'll give you an example. I'm good at my examples. I've got a whole list of examples, but the most recent example was I started talking about my past recently, which involved breaking up with my baby's father, not baby anymore, obviously, but my son's father, and medical conditions that I have been going through and experiencing, and the breakdown of different relationships in my life that were very important to me. So all of these things I've started to talk about, and going back, say, 15 years or so, it was like I couldn't talk about it. It was closed off inside. And as soon as I started doing a lot of work on myself, admittedly, and NLP helped me so much with that. As soon as I started working on myself, I found that by talking about things, but I became vulnerable, yes, but I also started healing, and I also started to experience trust and beauty and companionship and real friendship as well. So to me, vulnerability means that I'm alive and I'm living to my fullest, So I'm going to throw it out today to someone who's going to start. I'm going to go for Kate. You're there.
Oh, hello. Yeah, the first thing that came up for me, Danielle, when you were sharing your story at the start was how vulnerability is something that we see, or which we're sort of trained to see, maybe as kids, that it's weakness.
Yeah.
And yet, really, it's strength, it's courage, it's just putting yourself out there, warts and all, just saying, this is me. I'm okay with being me. I know I screw up a lot, and I'm not perfect, and my life isn't perfect, and I'm not pretending to be anything that I'm not. And that, for a lot of people, that takes a lot of courage. And what you're talking about is just taking that step for yourself and saying, right, I'm going to now just come from that place of being vulnerable and courageous and living in integrity with my values, what's important to me. I'm not going to live anyone else's life anymore. And that does take a lot of courage. And so firstly, it's like, who am I? who exactly am I anyway? And a lot of people don't even know that. It's not, certainly in my work, I often start with values, because people don't even know what they want or who they are and what's driving them, and whether that driving is through fear or towards something they love. And so it's finding out all of these things and working out, who am I, what's driving me, is it healthy or not, and how am I expressing myself out there in the world? And am I okay? Am I doing it from a point of being okay with myself, or am I doing it through fear that someone might find out who I really am? And then there's all the shame starts coming in and all of that. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is about, it's not a weakness to be vulnerable, but it's also very, very hard to do. And so it takes courage and a fierce love for yourself and a willingness to show up no matter what. And the other message I have is that no matter who you look at, no matter what guru you follow, they're just as messy and imperfect and screw up just as much as you do. And so don't look at these people as these gods that are going to be your savior. You know, your savior is here inside of you. And you know, maybe you follow some sort of religion that has a god and you look to them to save you. But really, most religions talk about love for yourself. And even like these gods that came so-called came to earth, Jesus, Buddha, all these different people that people follow, you know, they all lived imperfect lives too. And so they're not saying be perfect, they're saying love yourself, and from that place love others for who they are. Don't judge them either. So
that's beautiful. Thank you.
That's my first.
Imperfectly perfect.
Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, a lot of people I work with are coming to me to be made perfect. I want to be perfect. I want to grow into this person that I should be, or I want to be, or I should have this or that. And a lot of it's sort of rooted in childhood, how they were shown what this person should be like and how you should be. And they look at all these other people that have it all together and think, I want to be like them. But if you lived their lives, you would realize it's not that. And when you get what you think you want, you realize it wasn't it anyway, and it always comes back to you. And that's getting okay with being as you are right now.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Absolutely brilliant. Perfect. Okay, so maybe we can go to Lee. Lee, would you like?
Yeah, and I agree with you about the vulnerability being a strength. But I think that what I've discovered is that it needs to be a two-way street. So when you're vulnerable with somebody where there's no reciprocity, then there's a lot of discomfort. That's you know, because you feel like you're opening and the other person isn't. And I've got loads of sort of examples that I won't go into, but you kind of, for any kind of situation, I think if you're sharing, and if both of you are sharing your vulnerabilities, that you both understand, or however many are in the group, each one of us here has weaknesses, has strengths, has good days, bad days, and times at which we feel hell of a vulnerable. And, you know, when you mentioned the various categories, and the one was vulnerability, I thought, you know, at this time, we feel so vulnerable to I guess, in a way, the future, the various things we've been talking about that are going to change in our lives. But if we can share those and agree that like you say, I mean, the gurus are incredible. And when you do have something within that you can go to, whether it be meditation, whether it be, you know, whatever it is, when we've got something we can go to find inner strength, then that does help. But sometimes you need someone with which to discuss your vulnerability. And I think we're all in those shoes here as a group of practitioners where it's actually nice to share. And sometimes even with a client, I mean, they might not necessarily they're not paying you to hear your story, but by sharing, there's a reciprocity, and you're bringing up that relationship with that person and letting them know that, yeah, I can work, I can help, but hey, I get it. I've been there. I understand it. And it does show strength. I think you're so right, Kate.
Yeah, it does. It really
I
does.
can add to that.
Of course it does. Please, yeah, please.
Well, I think vulnerability is a natural state for a human being. I mean, we all have that at a certain level. It's not like some are vulnerable, some are not. And I think our capacity to control what happens externally is kind of limited in the physical realm. I mean, we're like ants, right? We have a big tsunami, big earthquake, and we're wiped away. And this is the truth. It's not being positive or negative. It is the reality. So everything that we have built around us as a society and each of us individually, I think it's a more or less a conscious effort to create a sense of stability, of security around us, a false feeling of confidence, if you want, to hide this feeling of vulnerability. But if one dares to go inside, and this is not an easy thing, and should not be taken lightly, we can actually discover that there is at the bottom of it, if you allow yourself to slide in there, at the bottom of it, there's like a trap, and you can just go through and discover that sense of life, the consciousness, and that true sense of power and empowerment and confidence. So there is a secret gate, if you want, that leads to the true nature of mind and heart. And I don't want to make it sound like superficial, because we don't have much time here to discuss about it. But what I can say in regards to this, and this is the result of years of self-observation, in order to allow yourself to be fully vulnerable, we need a safe space, right? That's the only place where you can actually allow yourself to do that. And that is a meditation, a meditative state. It could be the now state. It could be talking to someone who could just listen and give you that complete attention and love. Being surrounded with love. This will allow one to go through the process. But then again, it's not easy to do that. We really have to be careful because, and I will talk about that later. I have 2 more points that I'd like to bring to our conversation today. There are people that are feeling vulnerable, and there are people that are vulnerable. And there are really people that are suffering now, people with serious diseases, people with serious depressions, single mothers, people that have no means for living, women that are being aggressed at home. I mean, there is a high level of vulnerability that is real, and we cannot just go and do the meditation. About this, I would like to talk a bit later. But that transition, it is possible from this state of extreme vulnerability that one might feel in one's life can happen if you allow yourself to slide in there and allow yourself to dive deeply, deeply, deeply. When you reach the bottom, then you realize that sense of confidence. Because what would be, Danielle, what would be for you the opposite to vulnerability? Strength?
The opposite to vulnerability.
Yeah, like what would be the antidote for it? Or what would we like to feel instead?
Oh, absolutely. Courage.
Strength. So courage and strength. And where can we get it from? If I feel like an ant, because I am an ant at the scale of the universe, I'm nothing, right? So
well, you're an ant.
I get that sense of strength by connecting to the source.
Yeah.
I won't be able to feel completely safe and secure unless I feel connected to something greater. And I think that's the key, to allow yourself to feel vulnerable, to reach the source. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Oh, I loved it. Oh, that was so beautiful. Susanna, thank you. That was amazing. I really do want to we'll do some techniques and maybe some meditation in a minute, but we'll come to Lena. But oh my gosh, that was just beautifully put as well, wasn't it? It's lovely. So Lena, my darling, talk to me.
I would love to just add on to what everyone else, I mean, a lot of the topic has been covered already in a basic level, just scratch the surface. But I wanted to add, as taking on from Susanna, as the way we experience the world at the bottom line, and also Kate mentioned, we are human. We are on planet Earth. And vulnerability is something that every single human being, whether you speak about it or allow it or whatever, you have it as soon as a human being is born, is nothing else but vulnerable.
Yeah.
And from a very, very young age, we learn to be hushed because the baby cries. So that's not, let's freak out and make the baby stop crying. Not just stop crying. And a lot of that kind of carries on with us in many ways through life, learning from different experiences, and everybody has a different story. Like Susanna mentioned, there's real hunger, there's real poverty, there's real struggle, and there are things. However, in everybody's life, regardless of the degree to which we may be compared to other person, but each and every individual goes through their own processes, and each and every individual was born and was that vulnerable baby once, and was put through certain experiences from which they've learned how to juggle their world and how to make their world. Each and every individual has learned, okay, this didn't work, next time I'll try harder, I'll cry more, or I'll have to shut up now. And we learned that vulnerability is something that makes people uncomfortable. And we learn in one way, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that we learn that vulnerability makes other people uncomfortable, and maybe we're not liked enough or accepted enough, or whatever the case may be. Then from that, there's a lot of unresourceful scenarios that come throughout the rest of our life. And maybe that is a good time now for us to share where we can help.
Lena, thank you so much. I love that analogy, because when we are a baby, you're right, totally, we are vulnerable, and we learn how to protect ourselves and to almost go into our shell and retreat. And then we need to relearn how to get that beauty and that vulnerability out again, so that we can be reborn. It's almost like that, isn't it? It literally is. Thank you. That was so beautifully put too. Oh, I just love you all so much, because it just makes sense of everything. It's wonderful. So when you're feeling that vulnerability as well, or if you're feeling that awkwardness, if you get to the situation, like right now when my dog's trying to take over the stream as she does, beautiful, deal with the dog. So when you're feeling that awkwardness, where are you feeling that in your body? And is there a trigger for that awkwardness? Is it something that's being repeated in patterns? Or is it just something that's kind of like you're doing something and something's just hit you and you feel awkward and you're scared to show who you are? So it's almost like looking at the different angles. Why? Or maybe you're just in a situation where you are vulnerable, exactly like what you've been saying. So it's figuring out where that source has come from, so that your feelings that you can't be vulnerable, and where are you feeling it, and what does it need? So Kate, I learned so much from you, because you're an amazing practitioner as well. So Kate, we could go to you to say, but it's like, where do you feel it? What does it need? And how can that feeling, whatever you're feeling it in your body, how can it be resolved? How can it be released? You know, maybe Kate, we could come back to you and just.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I see it is that it's a fear, and it's not something to be pushed away or pushed down or denied. It's something to be. It's fearful. It's like a child that's scared and wants love and affection and be told it's okay and there's nothing wrong with you and all these sort of things. It's a part of us that is scared like a little child, and it's a case of what I envisage is like that child just needs holding and loving and not being shamed for being what it is. So first thing is, don't reject it. Accept it is a part of you. And it's a valid part of you that has a message. And then what is that message? And I know we all do this work in different ways, but it's finding out what is that message, and then what can we learn from that about ourselves? What can we do to make that part of us feel safe again, and to release that tension or fear or whatever it is inside of us, pain, sometimes physical pain in the body. It can be manifest in many different ways, and it's a case of how do I just accept this for what it is? It's a bit like Susanna was saying, go through it, allow it to go through it, and underneath will be the love and the light and everything else that you're looking for, all those beautiful feelings. It's there, it's just hidden underneath the fear. But the fear is not to be rejected, the fear is to be accepted, and there are ways to do this. And certainly if we're talking about severe trauma, whether it's in the past or now, then you probably need help to do that safely, so that you feel safe to do so. And that's what we're all trained to do. And it's a case of, one way that I've talked about before, as I like to do, is say, okay, well, what's this fear? What's that feeling? Where is it in my body? What does it feel like? And then we can do all the submodalities as we do with what color is it? What's the shape of it?
Yeah.
What does it like to be called? Ask it. What do you want to be called? You know, we can do parts where we take it out of ourselves and allow it to sit next to us and ask it, what do you want? What's your name? What can I do to help? You know, accept it and talk to it and look at all the ways that it's expressing itself in you, in your body. Is there feeling? Is it moving? Is it hot or cold? All those things. And then find the part of you that's safety. Where's safe? And what does that feel like? And then take that feeling and move it over to that feeling and allow that part of you to feel safe. And a lot of the times when I work with people that have got such a barrier up, it's like a big wall or a steel ball around their heart or something. It's so hard and they don't believe they can get through it. And it can take a number of times to slowly just try and accept a little bit, just step in to that beautiful feeling and then step out again. Don't force it in. Don't try to make it feel different, because then you're not accepting it for what it is. You're trying to help it. You're trying to allow it to flow and accept this love that you have for it. And then, you know, it's a subtle thing, but it makes a big difference, because as soon as you start saying it's wrong, I've got to change it, then the barrier comes straight back up again. And so it's a case of how do I do it safely so that all of me feels safe? And then you're just going into this way of accepting that feeling of safety. How do I make it safe? But bit by bit, but not because I want to make it feel safe so I can change it, because then the barriers come straight up. So it's just there is a subtle way of doing it. And when somebody is very scared or very vulnerable, whether it's a past thing or something's happening now, you do have to do it slowly and carefully, because they are in this heightened state. And the first thing probably is just to get them to relax to a point where they just feel relaxed enough to even start the work. And that can take many sessions just to get someone to relax enough to start to trust and go into this feeling.
Yeah.
So,
that was brilliant, Kate. Thank you so much. Perfect. Yeah, because it's that place of love and trust where you can feel that you can open up and you can look at yourself from a different perspective and realize that there's so much more that can be found in releasing and treating yourself kindly and finding comfort in the discomfort, you know.
It's not making yourself wrong. It's about making yourself, like you're saying, comfort in discomfort, being okay with not feeling okay.
That's
and
right.
knowing that's okay.
And it takes practice as well, because we've spent all those years practicing being in our shell and that it's not okay, you know. But as soon as you start practice it again and again, it becomes easier and you're flowing more and everything, like everything in life, practice makes perfect. And we love to be imperfectly perfect, imperfectly. It makes sense anyway. Thank you, Kate. That was really, really beautiful. That was wonderful. So maybe we'll go to Susanna. Susanna, could you maybe do one of your techniques as well?
Well, yeah, but before talking about the technique, which is, as I said, you can find several methods in doing that. But what I'd like to say is that vulnerability is a very subtle feeling. Like when you feel sad, you know you're sad. When you feel angry, you know it's anger. But it's harder to recognize, like, I feel vulnerable. It's more subtle than that. And usually, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, that shows up in the body. Like it shows like a back pain, it's the tooth pain, you have headache, the liver, so the reproductive system, the urinary system, it shows up somewhere in the body because it's so subtle, it's hard to perceive. Nobody comes and says, I feel so vulnerable. I didn't have coaching sessions for that yet. It's an underlying feeling there. And my suspicion is, as an NLP practitioner, I just observed the way that has been put in the media, and that's why I'm glad we talk about this subject, because you hear the word vulnerability so much as an association with death, right?
Yeah.
So the ones that are most vulnerable are the ones that are most in danger. This is what we hear constantly.
That's
Right? So this is so important that we discuss about this, because vulnerability is different, like Lena was saying, is different for everybody, and it reaches different levels. I mean, everyone now could be in an unlocked state of vulnerability, for instance, physically. How many people might have, I was talking to my dentist earlier, and he said that the dentist cabinets are closed. How many people might be suffering just from that? So that makes you feel vulnerable, because you worry about your tooth, you worry about your health. That brings forth a general state of vulnerability, which is resonating deep down with fears of death, fear of disease, the sense and meaning of life. So that's the feeling of vulnerability that kind of drops down in there and reaches, but it's hard for people to recognize it unless it's physical. So I think it's important that we understand that the words that we're using in NLP, we know that very well. The words that we are using are highly hypnotic. That's why, for instance, if somebody is angry, if you tell them stop being angry, it won't work. If you tell them, wouldn't you like to try to be calm now, it will work better. But if you constantly hear, if you're vulnerable, you're in danger, then for God's sake, of course, people will feel more fear. So this is an important thing for people to understand, that watching less the social media and the mainstream media will be a good remedy for that to start with. Taking all the precautions, making sure that they're safe and healthy, but watching less of these subliminal messages that are being constantly bombarded. This is serious. I mean, I'm not even joking. No. Because at any point in time, we are in a state of trance, and we know that. I mean, when we watch TV, when we watch publicity, the hypnotic speech is there all the time. Now, I cannot think of an alternative way to bring the subject out, because this is the truth, maybe, that vulnerable people are more at risk. How else can we put it? I couldn't say right now. I don't have an alternative to that. But we have to pay attention on how we reframe it to ourselves. I think it's also important. How vulnerable I am. Am I really vulnerable? If I am healthy, vulnerable from a health point of view, then yes, maybe I should pay more attention. But then the problem is with what happens with the most subtle levels of vulnerability. And then you can use groups. You can share, like us, we do here. We can meet and talk about things to decipher the message, to really speak truth and not interpretation. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would came to me.
It was brilliant.
Now, what do you think about that?
Yeah, Lee, go on.
Sure, I'm hypnotized by Susanna's voice. But you are. It's a very big truth, and I think that's something I hadn't actually sort of put into or thought about, was the fact that the more vulnerable you are, the more at risk you are, and you're at risk because the messages that we get from the media. But it's fascinatingly true, because we are so incredibly hypnotized in life. I find with my practice, so often sort of people, they want to come for therapy, but they're so scared that the hypnotist can control their mind. But in actual fact, we control our own minds. Like I've said before, I'd hate to get into someone else's mind. I've got enough going on up in my own. But and they feel vulnerable when they come into your office. So if you're giving them a perspective of love and reciprocity, and then going back to what Susanna's saying, and allowing them to know that we are in control, but by opening up and shedding the layers, it goes back to that onion sort of thing, where just let go of a little bit and see, let that underneath stuff that you're talking about, that love, that depth, because yes, we're born as little vulnerable babies, but we're also born with, I think, the way I sort of perceive it is that we're just these perfect little creatures. And over time, we learn to moan about this and that, and the hair's curly or the hair's short or the hair's long, or I'm fat or I'm thin or I'm tall or whatever. And we become vulnerable about who we are, when in actual fact, each and every one of us is, and I'm now talking on the feeling of vulnerability rather than the actual physical being vulnerable in a situation where you do have no house, or you do have, and that comes with a whole bunch of other fear. and it's quite difficult in a situation like this to know exactly which one we're talking about or at what level to talk, because again, with therapy, it'd be so beautiful to work with people who are feeling vulnerable right now. And you can easily do that online, because it's easy to work with one another to just help guide through the meditations, just guide them through the love with someone who's in that real desperate feeling of having nothing, of being physically vulnerable to life in a situation, no food or illness or whatever. From a distance, that becomes difficult. And I think that's also bringing it back to lockdown. And the reason we always, we all kind of started this, is how do we reach out? How do we help those people? How do we get to, from a distance, where did they get their input or their, I don't know, because one-on-one with a client, it's easier to work with somebody who's in a situation like that. Yeah. But it's that real depth. And I suspect that person at this point wouldn't be watching this show. So it's not, this conversation, because it's not really, they wouldn't have necessarily the access to it. But how would we be able to help and share and communicate and be involved in some way on a greater scale, helping those people?
And also the other thing that just popped to mind as well is exactly, and what you were saying, Susanna, as well, is that the media are labelling a certain group of people as vulnerable. Yes. But those people maybe not wanting to be vulnerable. So it's a state of mind as well. So if you're labelled something, that means you are it. Well, who's there to label us? Do you know what I mean? We can label ourselves. So you're so right. Labels, rip them off, shut them away, start them again. Because we are ourselves, right?
Yeah, and because sorry, carry on.
This label with the label, with the vulnerability. I did mention earlier how we all are vulnerable, but what I left out, to come to the topic now, is yes, we're vulnerable as that physical human body, as in when you cut, it bleeds, when it will bruise. Yes, it will. However, there is so much more to that than the physical body. We are intertwined of so much more that, yes, those messages are there. And for the people that are watching us right now, what is important to remember is be aware that somebody is controlling the way you think, and somebody is fearful and is projecting fear onto you. It wants you to behave in a certain way. That's why it's called mass media. You don't go to a mass production factory unless you want to get something that fits a certain bill. Then why would you listen? It is exactly the same thing. If you are able to choose the brand of food you buy, or the brand of clothing you buy, or you've got your preference, why would you fit the bill of a vulnerable group and listen to that, and then also choose to listen to? That's the same mass production company that is feeding, and it is passing on an agenda. That agenda, whether you should know what it is or shouldn't know what it is, it's irrelevant. Bottom line is, we are much bigger than the physical body, and we do have a choice. Yeah. If you're watching TV and TV is giving you numbers, up until now, nobody knew how many people at the same time in the whole of the world are dying today. Yet we all know people are dying, and it's not to say ignorance. I'm not being ignored because ignorance is bliss. It's not. Yes, be aware. We know enough, but there are things that are putting you in the same bracket of where if you believe, and if that is the language you choose to enter your head, if that language makes you feel vulnerable and scared, maybe you need to watch a comedy.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Up.
Yes. Because yes, that may be a reality. Yes, you may be in it right now as a collective, for sure. However, if you're watching us right now, is it your reality right now? No, it isn't. So you can switch the channel and watch a comedy and have a good belly laugh. Much better than count the numbers. It's not about ignorance. It's about looking after yourself, looking after your own mental health, and bringing your own tweak. If each and every individual manages to tweak their own vibrational level at higher frequency, because we are all frequency, then people around you are going to vibrate in exactly the same frequency, and you have a choice.
I love that. Thank you, Lena. Perfect. And it's if you're fitting in the vulnerability category, which the media are bringing out to you, by believing that you are vulnerable, it makes you even more vulnerable. So you may be fitting into a demographic. Yes, you might be in that demographic, but the state of mind will give you so much more strength. So it is what we believe we are, we become. So yes, you may be a demographic, but take control of that state of mind and vulnerability. Change that to strength and courage. So if you're in that category, just that. So let's go to has anyone else got anything to say? Maybe we can do a little meditation. I think that would be really lovely. Should we do that? You know what you were saying, Susanna, earlier? You had a little technique.
Well, not particularly for that, but I was just mentioning it as a possibility on how we can reach that. But it's, as I said, that since this feeling of vulnerability is different for each of us, and there's no particular state, because vulnerability is a state of fear, right, and anxiety, and it's connected to deeply rooted beliefs, like profound beliefs of the fear of death, of fear of disappearing, fear of being wiped off. So this type of profound feelings I found in people. So I don't know, what do you think? What type of meditation? What I remember from the NLP training was one technique was that the falling through the emotions, like going through, imagining.
Yeah, the trap door. That's what you're saying as well. Okay,
so maybe if you want to do that, maybe you could do that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Why not? Yeah.
So you want to do it? Because since you're the mother of our vulnerability here.
No, I want you to do it so I can practice it. Selfish.
I didn't do a trapdoor one. I'd love to hear.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it.
We call it the emotional drop through technique.
Emotional drop through, yes.
Yeah.
Was that on the Masters?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I haven't done that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
cool.
So who wants to do it? Because I want to do it.
Do it.
I want to do it myself. I want someone else to do it. Kate.
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay.
Kate.
Cool.
So what, the first thing to do then is to just get yourself completely relaxed, and just, whether it helps you to visualize things with your eyes open or eyes closed, then it's totally up to you. But just get yourself relaxed, and just allow your eyes just to relax completely, whether or not they're open or closed, and then just send, with every breath, just a wave of relaxation down from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes. Just with every breath out, just relaxing even more, and just get yourself into just a nice place where you're just feeling just okay. You're just focusing on your breathing and that wave of relaxation just flowing down your body with every out breath. And just do that for a few moments. And I'd just like you to think, while you're doing that, just think of a feeling, an unpleasant, uncomfortable feeling maybe that's arisen in you in the last day or so. Just thinking of a time, an unpleasant and uncomfortable situation that you've noticed recently, and just noticing that feeling, or where is that feeling? And you're just asking now, we're not thinking about it now, we're just feeling it and getting to the depths of how you experience that feeling now. whether it's an idea in your mind or whether it's a feeling in your body, but just that feeling, just going into that feeling and not making it wrong, just allowing it to be. And just noticing if you've got a colour or a temperature with that feeling. Is there a shape? Is there sound with it? Is there movement? Is there anything else that defines that feeling for you? And just focusing on that for a moment. And then as you're doing that, I'd like you now to just step into that feeling even more, and then just allow yourself to drop right through it and just look at what's underneath when you do that. I'm going to go to each of you and just nod when you've done that, and then we'll just find out for you what's underneath. Danielle, what have you got underneath?
Frustration.
Okay, and Lee?
It's kind of peace and love.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Lena?
I have love underneath.
Love. And Susanna?
Love as well.
Fantastic. And Danielle, what was yours again?
Frustration.
Frustration. Okay, so the other three, just stay with that feeling of love, and I'd like Danielle now to taking that frustration and doing the same thing now. What's that feeling? And just allowing that feeling to be, and then I want you, when you're ready, just to drop right through that feeling and tell me what's underneath.
Resolution.
Resolution. Wonderful. And just staying with that feeling now, that feeling of resolution, allowing that just to be as it is. And then whenever you're ready, I just want you now to drop through that feeling and tell me what's underneath.
Everything.
Everything. Fantastic. Loving that.
Yeah.
And just all of you now, just focusing on that love and everything. And just noticing, is there even another layer? Could you go even further now? Could you drop through that and anything else beyond that? And just nod if there is anything more. Danielle, what have you got?
Peace.
Peace. Beautiful. And Lee, did you have anything beyond?
I have a sense of kind of almost nothingness, just vastness.
Oh, wonderful. Beautiful. And so just Lee, just taking that vastness and just dropping through that and tell me what's underneath.
It's like an abyss, as if I'm just floating or...
Beautiful. And just stay in that place and just drop through that feeling now. What's underneath?
Just immense calm.
Calm. Beautiful. Loving it. Okay. And Lena, how are you doing? Just staying with that calm, Lee. And Lena, how are you? Anything below that love?
Below the love was it's okay and also calm.
Calm. Fantastic. Good. So just staying with that feeling now and just amplifying that feeling. And then Susanna, what did you have under the love?
Well, it's space. I'm floating, actually. I'm kind of weird.
Good. And is there anything below that? Do you have a sense of anything below that space, that floating? What's below?
There's no below. There's no under.
You were just expanded beyond.
Yeah. Expanded.
Fantastic. Okay, beautiful. So I'd like you just all to focus on that feeling now that you're in there now. And just bringing all of that feeling now back to that old feeling, and just noticing how that old feeling is now changed when you bring that feeling into that place in your body where you felt that original feeling. Taking that feeling now and just replacing it with this beautiful, warm, love, calm space, and allowing it now to just expand out and expand into every part of your body now. And then just from there, expanding it out even further, so it's like a bubble surrounding you. Feeling safe and calm, full of love and that space just to be And then just taking that out even further now, expanding it out to your home, all of your loved ones, wherever they are in the world, and every being in the world. Just taking that feeling out, because it's never ending, this feeling. You can give out as much as you like, because you'll never be depleted from that feeling. It's the energy that comes into you, and it's there for you always and for everyone else. And just imagine now just taking that energy through for the rest of the day with you, for whatever you have to do today. Maybe you have something you're not looking forward to doing, just taking that energy, that feeling with you throughout the rest of the day and sharing it with everyone that you meet. And then whenever your mind and your body have made all those arrangements for you, then just come back to now and open your eyes.
Oh, wow. I'm in a sparkle bubble.
Fantastic.
Very beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I love that technique. It works brilliantly with so many things. It's really good.
Yeah.
Very similar to what Susanna was saying before, really, about the trap, and dropping through.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's important to keep going, even sometimes when you get to a place of nothing, there's a lot to go underneath. The nothing place is like in between the uncomfortable and the comfortable. So once you sometimes the nothing is something you've still got to get through. So often you go through a place, there's nothing, and then you drop through, then you find the love and the calm and everything beyond. And obviously Susanna went even further into expanded consciousness and everything else. And so it's important to get to a calm love place. Yeah. Pardon?
No, man, nothing felt like that. It was almost like I was floating in space. You know what I mean? When I said floating, that kind of sense of just nothingness, I suppose, but in a nice way, not in a dull, horrible. It's nothing.
No, absolutely. I think it is you always keep going beyond, just in case you're in the nowhere in between. It's like the middle of nowhere. You're not comfortable. You're out of the discomfort, but all you have is an absence of discomfort. You don't have the comfortable, warm, beautiful feelings, and that's why I wanted to get you to the love and the calm that was underneath that.
No, it is beautiful, though, because that is love and calm, isn't it? It's stunning.
Oh, that was just so beautiful, wasn't it? Yeah. I feel so lucky that it's like I'm going to the most expensive spa in the world, and I'm just getting my whole soul and treatment.
That's the beauty of this stuff. And the thing is, it's so hard to do on yourself, isn't it? I know, and I know that even when I know I have a feeling and I'm saying, okay, what's underneath? It's really hard to do without being guided through it. I know that. So.
And everyone has things in their life, that frustrates them, or that they can't control. So there's always going to be something. And the beauty of this, what we're doing here, is that anyone watching this can just do these techniques with us, and it's so powerful because. God, dear, that really helped me as well. Just different situations that frustrate, and then just let it all go where it was feeling it in my shoulders, and now I'm just in happiness. I'm marshmallow now.
And also the beauty of this is that you don't need to understand how it works. It will be, now we're doing like some colors and whatever. Just go with it.
Yeah, trust.
Have some fun. Have some fun.
I love it.
Yeah, and there's no right way or wrong way either. It's just whatever's right for you, and you've got to just be honest with whatever comes up and keep dropping through until you get through to that place.
And allowing vulnerability to yourself, because you're becoming vulnerable to yourself. So that's the most beautiful thing that you can actually do, because it's the first start of your journey. Because if you can be vulnerable to yourself and you start loving yourself and releasing anything that's holding you back, then that's the first stage. And then the second stage is the people around you that are closest to you, being vulnerable to them, and practicing that. And then once you've got that and you realize the true beauty of what you're going through there and what that does for you as a soul and as a human, then you can reach out on a bigger scale, and yes, not everyone you can trust. It's absolutely, you can't trust everyone, and you have to do some kind of a protection for your soul, because we can't just give all our energy out to everywhere. But it's important to recognize that we can choose the right people, we can feel the energy from people. And if you can, you know, just trust yourself to make the right decision, because we can feel things. We know if people are good or bad fundamentally, if they've got issues.
Yeah.
And no one's really bad, but they might have things lying underneath that they haven't dealt with. That's what you're picking up on. So we can't control that, but we can control our reactions to it and to allow that vulnerability to take place. So
I think also it's the case of, like you were saying, Danielle, it's a case of the balance between saying, okay, this is me, I'm okay with me, but I don't think you are ready to accept all of me, so I'm going to choose how much of me I show to you. It's not showing yourself through fear. It's basically by loving yourself and saying, I don't think you're ready to know me in that way, and so I'm not going to share that part of me with you, but doing it through strength and acceptance of yourself, and not saying I'm scared to show that to you. It's just saying, I don't think you're ready for me, you're not strong enough for me to show you that part of me, so I'm going to hold that part back. And it's not about stealing yourself or protecting. It's more about just allow what parts of you you're going to allow to show from a position of love for yourself. If that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And also, as we're getting older as well, I was speaking to Lee about this earlier. The older, well, I can speak for myself, but the older I get, the more I just think I'm just totally authentically me. And if people don't like that, then that's okay. It really is okay, because I like me, and the people I have surrounding me, I like. And everyone, I like the people around me, and I love the people around me, and they accept me for who I am. And you can't please everyone all the time, and that's okay. And the older I get, the stronger that is. So it's kind of like an absolute gift, along with the grey hair we were saying. Thankfully, we have stuff that can fix. Although my poor hairdresser, God bless her, when she comes back to me.
Can I add one more thing here, Danielle?
Oh, please, Susanna.
Because listening to you talking, I was thinking of the other position, the reverse position of the ones who's listening. Because now there are lots of people that have big hearts and big souls and want to be there for others, such as you, for instance, Danielle. But I think it's important that the ones who are the listeners, the ones who are that space of love for the vulnerable one, do it the right way as well. Because we all know, we've been there, you know, trying to help, going in there and vibrating, because, you know, every two nervous systems can be in sync. Me and somebody from, I don't know what to say, from Vietnam, we put ourselves together, we'll find eventually a way to vibrate together the same frequency. Every two nervous systems are capable of tuning into each other. So the creating rapport with somebody who is, for instance, in a true state of vulnerability, if you are the helper or the one who wants to create that space of love, it is important that you have the mastery of your own state. Else, you are taking it in. Else, you are sinking down with them. Because in every conversation, there is a hypnotic process going on. Either I get hypnotized or I hypnotize them. There is no other way. We have to understand that this is the process. So when we get in sync with each other, now we're vibrating at the same level. Now what will happen, I either pull him or her up in the space where I want to bring them in confidence and joy and laughter and love, or they will drag me down. So it is very important that the first step would be to create rapport with the other person, listen to their own representation, because they will talk in their own words. Now, people express this vulnerability through anger. I've noticed that a lot in social media. People are angry. The two sides of the story, there's a conspiracy, there's no conspiracy, they're fighting each other, they're insulting each other. I've noticed that it's such a terrible state of anger there. And that at the bottom is just vulnerability, I find. So when you talk to someone who is on the opposite side, you know, let's say, you won't convince them, but you can listen and you can use the techniques for rapport. Use some of the words, give them back some of their expressions, use a little bit the way they talk, and really listen. And then sometimes you don't even have to say anything to bring them a little bit into a higher state. Just projecting on them that feeling of love because you're in sync. Just projecting into them that feeling of trust, of confidence, of being connected with something greater, that in itself would work. But what matters is that we are connected at the level of the nervous system, that the neurologies are in sync. So that's my advice, because I see lots of healers, I work with them usually on in my coaching. People that don't know how to set their limits. They don't know how to stop receiving all these bad vibes, and they usually talk to people about their problems, and they go down there with them with their problems. So they bring them home, they keep them in their bodies, and
yeah. The thing is as well, though, you got to be careful you don't get drained like that as well.
Yes.
I always say that if there's someone that is literally sucking the living daylights out of you, energy-wise, because it happens, right? It does. I like to imagine that I've got a shield of like white light that just goes ding, 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 all the way down my body. So I'm totally encapsulated in this beautiful armor of bubble all over my body, so that whatever they're shouting and throwing out at me, it's bouncing right off of it. Because there are some people that you cannot give all the love in the world to, and they just won't. You know, you can try it, and sometimes it will make them realize, hold on a minute, maybe I am in a bit of a weird place, and they'll switch up it. But some people aren't in that place, and they are just shut down emotionally because of other reasons that you cannot fix. So in those cases, I just imagine that beautiful light armor shimmery all the way down me, just like falls all the way down me until all those words are gone. Fill it with love, and then release and walk out. Beautiful. So that's how I like to deal with things. Has anyone? Oh gosh, it's flipping nearly 12 o'clock again. Flies.
It does, doesn't it?
Surrounded by you. Oh, I love you. So has anyone else got anything to say, or shall I round it all up? So, right, I'm going to round it up because there was one quote that I found that I'd like to finish the whole session with. And firstly, thank you everyone for being with me. Yeah, again, it was flipping fantastic. And I hope anyone that's watching this has got value and that can use the techniques and has been able to maybe deal with any frustration or anything that they've had, and maybe now they're allowed to allow themselves to show their vulnerability, and just taste a little bit of it, just test it, put it into practice a little bit. So my last quote of thing was by Brené Brown, who I absolutely adore. And this is what she wrote, which I think is just perfect. So this is the last bit. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy. The experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. We're just going to blast that darkness with light, because light is the only thing that can shine through the darkness. So on that note, we have 4 minutes to go. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's taken part. Amazing. Anyone that's watching, feel free in the future. We're now running on StreamYard, so we apparently can get comments come up, because I've got my comments thing up and running. So I don't know if anyone's going to be watching, but if you're on live with us, then please do write us a comment, because this is one clever bit of software. Very impressed with it, and with a bit of luck, it should have been streaming live. So I look forward to seeing you all on the next one. I don't know what we're going to discuss yet, but everything's magic to me, so bring it on. And I wish you all a good day. So I'm just gonna try and shut this down. Okay, so I want to end broadcast. So everyone say goodbye.
Bye.
End broadcast.